I guess, I guess the idea of all this is a little bit absurd because I should be doing some other work, but I can't really sleep. So I thought it would be a good idea to just make a guide for how to play League of Legends for people who play Dota. I haven't really planned this video that much. I just planned it on this piece of paper and like another piece of paper for the past like 1 hour or so, or half an hour. So there'll probably be some kinks, but let's just keep the video short and let's just go into it, right? Uh, so why might you watch this video? I guess this video is mostly, kind of like the saying of like be the person that you wished you had for yourself. So like I wish someone could tell me all these things when I started playing League because I played a whole bunch of Dota and then like 2 months ago I started playing League and the transition has been kind of very not difficult but interesting and not very easy. And I wish somebody could have highlighted some of the similarities and differences for me. So if you play a long time of Dota and want to try League, which I think is a great game, here are some of the things that hopefully could help you do the transition easier. So a bit of an intro. So this is my Dota buff. I didn't really play since 2018, so a lot of the newer things like the new jungle changes I don't know. At the time I stopped at 4K MMR, which is probably top 15% ish. So not a bad player, but not like a great one. So you say like a pretty competent player. Um, and in League, I just recently got promoted to Silver 2, so I'm very excited. And now it says I'm, 40, top 50%. So I'm like basically just the middle of the pack of everyone who play League. So I think it's reasonable for 2 months time. And in terms of other stuff, I also write blog about artificial intelligence and how OpenAI trains the bot to play Dota 2, right? Which was a thing like a few years ago. So that's kind of who I am. I'm a researcher and I play these games and I want to tell you about it. Um, so essentially, maybe I'll just boot up a practice game with Mundo. So let's just do this for now. Ooh, training practice. Cool. So essentially, this video is going to be divided into 2 parts. This is not important. I'll just do this. So this video is going to be divided into 2 parts. The first part, we'll talk about what the game is. And the second part, we'll talk about how to play the game, right? So in academic term, it's called environments and agents. So think of environment kind of like a ecosystem, like a mountain or ocean, like kind of like biological niches that you could play with. And think of the player as agents that are kind of working in these biological systems, right? So, if you're really high up on a mountain, it's very cold, you grow more hair. And so if you are in the ocean, you have gills that breathe, right? So like the first part we'll just talk about what the game is. And in the second part, I'll go into a bit about, given what the game is, how to play the game, right? And so environments and agents are the 2 parts, right? So a lot of League, which is at least interesting to me, is League, when they first made it, they just tried to emulate what Dota did, right? But they made a lot of simplifications. But in the beginning, they may seem like simplifications, but later on, they actually turn out to be make the game way more difficult and philosophical than their similar aspects in Dota. So I'll just try to highlight some of the differences in how the game is set up differently, right? Just to how are the environments or the biological niches of League is different from Dota. So first thing we would note that the map is small, right? Relatively to how fast you can walk. the map in League is much smaller than the map in Dota. Well, not much smaller, but like significantly smaller. So if I'm in mid lane, like over here, and then I just want to walk top, it's pretty quick, right? So like if I walk here to the top, right? Let's say I'm going top for a gank, and I'll probably miss some last hit in the middle. I can kind of walk halfway and decide, that's not a good gank. Let's kind of just walk back, and I'll still be in time to catch the wave, right? I don't miss that much last hit. But in Dota, when you go for a gank, it's kind of a commitment, right? Like you just smoke up and you just go for it, right? Like there's not much kind of backtracking. So in League, you get to decide because the map is small. So that's the first order of business. The second order of business is unit collision. In Dota, units are clunky. So the description I give for League is League units, they look like they're walking, but they're actually more like gliding or flying. So they have very small hit size, right? If you look at this Dr. Mundo, like he's literally clipping into the tower, right? If you look at it. And so as a result, right, you can't really creep block. So if I try to block the creep, they just kind of walk around me. I can't really block. And body blocking other champions is not a thing in League, right? So in Dota, right, you could, if you get like, let's say you have someone attacking and the guy is trying to get away, you could kind of like just block him, right? And then he can't really get away. In League, he'll just like slide past you. So that's another difference, which is kind of the unit collision. So in Dota, stuff are walking. In League, things are more like flying. So if you see, if I want to block this guy, like it's like not really that easy, right? He just kind of swarm around me, right? So in League, it's much more smooth. Turn rate is very fast. It's instant. Dota, you need to turn around, right? So if you have Batrider smacking napalm on you, you can't turn. In League, you could turn fairly smooth. So League is more smooth. It's like a very, I would say more, in some sense, like a bit more enjoyable to play if you just want like good smooth movement, right? Things move very smooth. Collision size is small. So that's the second thing that's different. The third thing that's different is how juking works. So in League, there are things called brushes, which are kind of like tall grass in Pokemon. And if you're hiding inside, unless they have vision of this brush inside, they can't see you. So it's kind of like a localized high ground, right? So if I stay here, unless you're in this grass with me, you can't see me, right? So this is kind of the main way to hide in League, is hide in these brushes. But if you notice the tree in League, there's not a lot of trees, right? So in the beginning, when League when they first made League, right, they just kind of tried to copy Dota, and then there's a lot of actual trees in League. But the trees are not part of League, right? So now they kind of tidy up the UI. So instead of trees, they use more rock, which is a much better metaphor of how League is. So the line of sight is controlled by these rocks. And these rocks, if you look at them, they're very contiguous, right? It's like a big chunk of rock here, a big chunk of rock here, and a big chunk of rock here, right? As opposed to Dota, like if you remember Dota map in the mid lane, there are just a whole bunch of little trees in there, and there's like some crazy juking you could do in the tree, right? Like if I eat a tango and I walk around. In League, it's not possible, right? Like this is literally just a triangle. Like you can't really do anything fancy. In terms of juking, right, the brushes are going to be your main tool, but in terms of juking, you're really limited, right? Because if you look at the line of sight, it's huge, right? Like here, look like a high ground, not a high ground. You could see up here, right? Like you could see almost perfectly within the radius of you. And if I try to run away from me, like if say you're trying to play hide and seek with me, it's very hard in League, but it's very easy in Dota, right? Like if you just go into the tree and try to break my line of sight, all of a sudden you can't see me, right? But in League, the line of sight is only broken by these very large objects, right? Which are doesn't really have the little nook and crannies in Dota that will allow you to juke easily. Cool. And the next thing we should talk about is the concept of skill shots, right? So in League, most of your spells, abilities are going to be skill shots. So here in Mundo, we have a cleaver, right? So this is called a skill shot in League. I think in Dota, we just call it ground target ability. So like rather than targeting on a unit, you target ground. So if I do this, see I'll miss, right? So a lot of Dota ability are targetable, right? You can click on something, like I want this thing to happen here, like an auto attack, right? I want this to happen at a particular location. But in League, a lot of far more spell are skill shots. So if the other guy is good, he can kind of dodge it, right? And also in League, more spell are about movement, right? So if I just level up, I can take my ultimate, right? So Dr. Mundo's ultimate gains movement speed, so it make me run faster, right? So if I do this, you see I can move faster. And there's many champions in League that have dashes. So what dashes are is essentially will let you teleport over short distances, right? Like you just move forward really fast for a bit. And I think, I wouldn't say half, but maybe roughly half of the champions in League have a small distance closing and disengage spells that will allow them to kind of move over short distances. Whereas in Dota, there's more disable, right? There's more crowd control. So in here, it's like nothing is absolute. But if I were to just characterize League versus Dota on a very like high, broad level in terms of spells, Dota is a game of crowd control, where I have like the Rasta Shackle, I have the Hex from Lion, you know, the Earth Spike, the Storm Hammer from Sven, Lina, like Literate, like those are really long duration crowd controls. And if those spells were to exist in League, they will be absolutely broken, right? Because in the crowd control in League is very limited, right? If you see the cleaver, right? This is my form of CC, right? It slows them by 40% for 2 seconds. That's it. Like literally, this is all I get to do. I do this, and they slow for just 40% for 2 seconds, right? But if you imagine I'm a Sven, I just do a Storm Hammer, I stun AoE 2 seconds, right? That would be absolutely broken. But what's League have in return of the lack of CC is dashes, right? So maybe not on this champion, but like on some other ones, they can just teleport over short distances. And if those spells were to exist in Dota, they will be really, really fucking broken too. So it's kind of like, wow, anti-mage, what makes anti-mage anti-mage? Well, anti-mage has a blink, right? So almost half of League champions have a blink, right? So like some form of blink. And so that would be broken. So like the way to think about League is in League, it is commonplace to have movement speed and dashes, and it's premium to have disable. And in Dota, it is commonplace to have crowd control and disable, and it's a premium to have dashes and kind of like mobility abilities, right? Like if you played ability draft in Dota, right? Like Wind Run is like super OP, right? Like Shukuchi from the Weaver is super OP, and what's common about them? They are actually like movement spells, right? So that's another difference. So in League, to recap, skill shots, more skill shots, and the more movement ability, make you run faster, dashes, not so much disable, right? In Dota, more disable, less movement, things like that. Cool. And let's move to the next thing, which is let's talk about objective, right? So in Dota, the objective, the real objective, right? Kind of we think of it as like Roshan, right? Which happened in like some pit. In League, the objective is this dragon here. So as you can see, there's a dragon over here. And then over here, this is where Baron live. But in the early game, it is this like thing that looked like a Roshan, but not really a Roshan. It's called a Rift Herald. And you can also snipe it. Then he gets damage. So what is the difference between objectives in Dota and League? I guess you could call this an objective. So this is the blue buff. See if I hit it, see how little it is. So if I in a game of Dota and I'm just level 6, or if I'm even level 1, right, and I go hit like an ancient camp, I would just straight up get murdered, right? But in League, in level 6, I can challenge this objective, right? Look, I can hit it, and then it's gonna try to hit me. What do you notice? I don't really get hit that much, right? Like, in fact, I could actually, if I want, right, if I have an ability out, I could actually just kill it, like, almost kill it, right? And so, the biggest difference between the objective in League and the objective in Dota is that while they're all very high in HP, they're all in League, they're very low in damage. So you could actually challenge them. So the only thing you pay when you fight an objective, it's like they're not gonna kill you. It's just gonna take a long time. It'll be like kind of annoying. You have to sit there for like half a minute or something, just like hitting it, and it'll slowly try to hit you, right? So that's the main objective. So these are objective in League are high in HP but very low in damage. Like, don't think of this dragon as a Roshan. Like, it's not a Roshan. You could go you try to hit a Roshan, you die, right? But like, try to hit a dragon. Like, anyone can take the dragon. Like at level 6, a support could come here and start hitting the dragon, and he'll be absolutely fine. Like, he's not gonna die in 10 seconds. And so if you're a jungler, you could solo this, right? Imagine every jungler is like this. That's kind of how junglers are. Like, you could solo this at a level 4 or 5. If nobody's watching you, you just come here and take the dragon. And all of a sudden you have an objective, right? Because they do no damage. What else is different? Neutral camps. Yeah, let's talk about neutral camps. So in here, right? So you could pull them, yeah, they'll come out, and then they'll lose some potions, and once the potions run out, they reset and run back. The way neutral camp work in Dota is they respawn at a fixed time, right? I think last time I played is like they respawn every minute. So if you pull the creeps, neutral creeps out of their little invisible box, right? They'll stack and make a new one. So stacking doesn't exist in these. So if I put it back and I run and I wait for some magic timer to hit 0, like I'm not gonna get new raptors here, right? These raptors are the only one. And they only respawn if I clear or kill them. So in here, if I kill the big one, this camp would respawn, it'll refresh. And it refresh on the timer. So if I kill it, it refresh exactly 2 minutes after I kill it. So you see the difference? In Dota, if it's like 50 at the 50 seconds mark, if I like really quickly kill a camp, at the 1 minute mark, they're all gonna come back, right? In League, if I kill it, I have to wait 2 minutes. And this is very important because it's on a timer. Like, it's from the last time I kill it, not from like an absolute timer I'm going to hit. Okay, so I talk about neutral camps, blocking. Let's talk about ward. Everybody can buy wards. So wards are called a trinket, and everybody has trinkets. So me as a jungler, I just come equipped with 2 trinkets. So here I could put one down here, and then they refresh, and I could put one down there. And you could switch out the trinket. So like the most common trinket is a ward, which is the same concept as in Dota. And you have this thing called a sweeper. So this sweeper is kind of like a hybrid, or it's kind of like a short duration dust evaporation kind of a thing that also reveal wards. So essentially this ward here is invisible. Once let's clear the cooldown. Right. So if I have a sweeper, I just run over here and I hit the sweeper, and then I'll have like an area around me, so I can see something beyond the wall. And then if this is the enemy ward, I could go here and then I can reveal this. So essentially, it's not just the job of a support to do ward and dewarding, but it's more like everybody can contribute to ward and deward. But notice how short duration the ward is, right? I placed them not that long ago, and now they're really close to expiring, right? They last 100 seconds only. So in Dota, wards last a long time, right? So you have a good ward in a good location. Let's say like I go real deep, right? Like go here, right? Somehow manage to like, you know, run all the way here and then place down the ward here, right? In Dota, this is like so important, right? Because this thing's gonna sit there for the next 2 minutes, and it's gonna see who come out of this base, who come out of here, who's in this jungle, right? It'll give me like invaluable intel. But in League, if I place a deep ward here, at some point I need to come back and redo it, right? Like it doesn't last that long. So like, and so think of wards kind of like, don't like die, like don't go on a crazy mission just to place a deep ward, right? Like you do it when you can, but don't commit to it, right? And it's not the job of a support. So that's the biggest change. So when I first started playing League, I was like, I'm not a support, I'm not going to even think about ward, right? Because they don't even show up as a normal item, right? Show up as like one of the weird side items. So warding is a concept that you should probably get used to adjust to. They last shorter in duration. Everyone can place ward and swap out the different trinket to clear ward, and they don't. It's not a job of a support server. Okay, that's how warding works. Let's talk about mana management, right? So if you look at Dr. Mundo, like, fucker doesn't have mana. It costs health, so when I use this, it just costs some health, right? There are champions in League that can cast spell that doesn't cost anything, they just do, like no cost. And some are like energy based, where you cost energy, and basically energy regenerates, like you have full energy within 10 seconds. So like every 10 seconds you could do a full combo provided they're off cooldown. And so how is this different in Dota? Well, in Dota you're like a Sven and you cast one Stormhammer, and you're out of mana. You can't cast another Stormhammer, right? In League, even the mana regenerate really fast, so in the lane you always have mana, so you could like, you're almost never out of mana, so like you could use mana like much more liberally than you could do in Dota. That's what I want to say about kind of resource management in terms of mana. Another thing that's different, it's just a giant laundry list of things that are different that kind of surprised me. So let's talk about laning, right? Let's talk about these like minions here, and let's talk about how towers work. So notice I'm just level 6, right? And I don't really have any item other than just like this boot that I have. So I want to show you what happens if I just sit right here, and then I just tank all the creep aggro, right? All this minion aggro, they're all hitting me. And notice I'm not dying that fast, right? Mind you, this is like a whole wave hitting me, right? Like, I'm not actually instantly dead, right? And I have no item, right? And this is like 18 minutes, right? They're kind of strong, right? So that's the thing, like in League, the minion doesn't really hurt you that much. In Dota, if like 3 or 4, like this is especially important if you play mid. In mid, like when you trade shots, the minion's gonna hit you, right? Because you draw aggro. In Dota, if like a few of them hits you, it hurts like a bitch. In League, they hurt, but like not so much. So like I would say the League minion is about 60% of a Dota minion. Like when they hit you, it's not the end of the world. Like you could tank some shots and you're gonna be just fine, right? See how I'm just tanking them? Imagine 4 ranged creep hitting you like this. Like it'll hurt a ton, right? I don't have armor yet, right? And another thing about the, I guess I don't have the bot here, is that these minions are smart. So in Dota, if I just let's say there's an enemy here and walk up here and hit them with a spell, this minion are not gonna do shit, right? Because unless I right click on an enemy, they're not gonna aggro me, right? But in League, as soon as I hurt them in some way, they're just gonna go mad and they're gonna start hitting you, right? And so I would say the AI in League is a lot more reasonable. Like in Dota, they're kind of dumb, right? They're like, oh, you're just this Viper is just orb walking my friend here. Let's just don't worry about it. It doesn't matter, right? In League, they actually hit you, and since you can't really draw aggro with right click, a lot of lane trick doesn't work. Like let's say it's mid lane, you want this creep to be closer to you. In Dota, what you do, right? You click on the other guy, and this creep will kind of aggro and walk to you, right? And this trick doesn't really work in League, so that's like an immediate application. So let's look at how tower works. Let me get some health back, and then let's imagine I step into a tower range, right? You see how much the tower hurts, and this is kind of like tower in League is like as smart as the minion. Like if you go in tower range and try to hurt the other one in like with ability auto attack anything, the tower start hitting you, and you die in like 2 shots basically. And like towers are ridiculously strong in League. In Dota, tower, like anyone can dive tower for like 2 shots, right? Like that's probably okay, right? Like you could even say, oh, I'm a support, my mid like dove tower, let me switch aggro, I'll take a shot, and like we'll be okay. In League, I think the tower will just keep hitting the same guy. You can't really switch out aggro, and then he dies, and then like they hurt a lot, and they're also very smart. So But notice how low health this tower is. So that's the difference in League. Is that in Dota the tower don't hit as much, but they have way more health and armor. In League the tower doesn't have that much health and armor. So like when you go and hit it, you could actually take it fairly easily. So if I just get into the tower range, right, I'll show you what it feels like to hit that tower. Right? See, now we're hitting it. You see, this is like fairly significant. So I'm just basically solo the tower, and then it's just, so I would say like probably 50% or like 30% more fragile than Dota towers. They actually go down if you hit them. Right, so that's the difference in tower. Cool. Fuck, there's like so much to talk about. Well, this is a long video. You open it, so I guess. Oh, most important, right? So creep, you can't deny, right? Like, see how this is low HP? In Dota, I would be like, oh, please deny. Like, in League, you can't really deny, right? So this is like one of the things that we tried to do to like simplify the game originally, but I will cover later how that actually made laning much more difficult in League in some aspect. So you cannot deny. So since you cannot deny, right? Last hitting, it's like easier, and they expect you to do it well because your CS score, this 9 here, is visible to the enemy team. So the enemy can look at you and be like, haha, this Mundo sucks, right? 23 minutes, 9 last hit. And you could actually use this thing to track how strong someone is. You know how many minions they have killed. So this is kind of insane how this information is available just in the tab menu. You can just look at this, right? Okay, so essentially in Dota, if you don't last hit perfectly, like you could make some excuses, right? Oh, I'm laning against the Viper, he just denied everything, or like, I'm just under the tower, I don't, right? But in League, there's kind of no excuses to miss any last hit. So if you come from Dota, chances are you probably have like better than average mechanic, right? Compared against people who never play these kind of games. You really shouldn't be missing any last hit. Like you absolutely just want to, right? If you have a free lane, you should last hit everything. And in League it's very easy because why? Because you have no mana cost. Like if I miss my last hit, boom, I just throw a cleaver, I got it, right? So make sure to use your ability to like farm if it's necessary, right? Like don't conserve your mana. So here, right, I can go and then like for example, I try to hit this one and then mess up, I can just throw the cleaver, right? I proceed to mess up, right? So, yeah, there we go. See, right? Like, say I'm far away, I'll throw a cleaver and maybe get it. Right? Oh, Pepe got like all of the creeps, but you get my point, right? And so, mana, turret, tower, minion, last hit, deny, special item, support item. Let's talk about another thing that's important in Dota. What's the key, or like one really important rule of thumb in Dota, right? It's you always have TP with you, right? So if someone's ganking top and you want to help, you TP top, right? If someone's ganking bottom, you TP, right? If you want to defend the tower, you TP. If you are in base and you want to get to a lane faster, you TP, right? In League, there's no TP, but there's recall button, which is back. So you hit this button, and then after 8 seconds, if nobody hurts you, like anything damage, it blocks it, but like nobody hurts you, you go back to base. And this is kind of very relevant in conjunction of the fact that in League there's no courier. So if I'm mid, and let's say I'm winning the lane really hard, and I have a lot of gold, right? Let's say I'm winning the mid lane really hard against like some bot or whatever, right? I have 4,000 gold, and in Dota, what do? Like I'm full health, I'm just gonna say, okay, please let me use a courier to buy my items. I'm just gonna sit here, right? I'm gonna sit here and I win the lane even harder. In League, I can't spend this gold, so I have to kind of like, I have to hit the back button, I have to go back and buy item, right? What does it give me is that it will give my opponent some time, right, until I run middle again to do stuff, right? They can maybe push my wave in and try to deny me farm because my tower would hit all the minion I would like to farm. He could push it in and rotate for ganks. And so something to keep in mind is that there's no courier, and then you need to be strategic when you use the back buttons, the back item abilities. I guess that's what summoner ability. Like, who knows?
Your team has destroyed
Another thing is there are these specialized items just for roll. So this is basically an item that only has use if you jungle, right? If you look at this item description, look at the last one, Tooth and Nail. It says basic attack against monsters, which just means like neutral creeps, deal bonus damage, and then it heals, and then you also get regen if you're in like the neutral area, such as the jungle or the river. So if you think about it, this is like a very specialized item that only work here, right? So imagine if you, I guess is it removed like Quelling Blade? If it's removed, right, rest in peace, right? And imagine you have a Quelling Blade that only work against these things, right? So like in general, the way the league is structured, I think league put more constraint on how the game should be played. So there's like one good way to play the game. In some sense, like there's a lot of flexibility, but like in League, right, just by creating this item, that means you are the designated jungle person. And it also grants this debuff called Monster Hunter, right? If you could read, it's over here on the bottom, which means if you have this item and you make more money from lane creep, this lane creep gonna give you less money after a while. So essentially this kind of ties you up to play the jungle. Like I can no longer be a split pusher and push the lane, because why? Because if I push the lane too much, this debuff gonna hit me, and I don't get money from this creep anymore. So through the use of these jungle items and similar item like this, it kind of locks you into like, I am a jungler, I will do jungle things, right? Like it kind of like constrain you, right? And so these raptor are kind of like my thing to take, right? They're mine, right? So like, what do these raptor look like? Well, they look like the thing that Shadowfiend will push mid and like double race and kill them, right? But like in League, you don't really do that as much. If the jungler don't like explicitly tell you, hey, yeah, just take this camp, we're cool, like you're not supposed to take them, right? Like he'll probably get mad at you, because that's like, he has this jungle item and he actually cannot make the money that you can make here, right? So if you take these camps here, he's basically screwed, right? Like if we have a mid that just push the lane and then just go into my jungle and take all my jungle camp, right? Because he could, right? Like let's say he's strong, what is there left for me? As a jungler, I'm screwed, right? Because I have this item that allow me to do like extra damage against like these jungle monsters. They give me regen as I'm walking around, but I cannot take lane creep, right? So if my mid lane just take all these things, I'm just screwed, right? I can't do anything. So I guess one thing is like in League, minions, your roles, not minions, like are more slotted. Like you are a blank, you're supposed to do blank. So like try to identify your role and play your roles. Cool. I think that covers the first part. It's a lot. So this is literally only the part that where I outline some of like the physical differences between League and Dota. Like what, like on the first level, what is different? And we now will enter the second part where we talk about, given this ecosystem of League, right? I outline some differences that it has against Dota. How do we optimize playing this game to win, right? So we are a creature in this ecosystem of League, right? Now we have to adapt and evolve and act optimally as agents to secure win, right? So this is what second part we will cover. So second part, really, how do you win a game in Dota or League? Well, it's the same, right? Like there's this building here, you kind of kill some towers and these inhibitors and you start smashing it, and it explodes and you win. Like that's not a useful description, right? So it's like in a fighting game, you give the tip like the best way to win Street Fighter is to not have 0 HP on your guy and have 0 HP on the other guy, right? Like that doesn't really tell you how to actually do it. A much better way to think about how to win this game, like not just kind of like but more useful, is both game is actually similar. I would say same between League and Dota, is a resource management game. So like you want to suck up as much resource as you can from the map, so your heroes or champion become much stronger than the other one. So when you actually go push, they can't stop you, right? Because you're more fed, you have more money, you have more items. So both of these games, on some level, it's best to think of them as resource management. And what is resources? Well, this monster is a resource, right? Like when I do it, I get money, right? Or I get 100 gold, right? So, and what is a very good way to think about resources is think about map control, right? So if I control more part of the map, I control all the resources, right? I can farm here, I can farm here. My team can take all these resources, right? So if we control more of the map, we can take the dragon objective, and the other guy can't really take it, right? So really when we say like we want to control as much resources, another way, like a proxy for defining good resource management and control, is just map control, like how much of the map you control. I thought of a very cute definition of map control is I have a control over a certain area for the time being if I can walk there without getting mugged. So imagine this, like this is the enemy neighborhood and there's like things there, and like, well, I don't want to end up in the wrong part of the neighborhood, right? Like if I go here, I might get mugged, right? And like they'll smash me and then take my money. But if, for example, I'm here, right? Here's a tower, so I definitely control this part of the map because I can freely walk here, right, without being mugged. So that means I have access, have some kind of indirect control over the camp nearby, right? This is like very safe. And then some of the camp nearby, I can farm close to my tower. These are safe. And the more further away, I lose control, and then they become more and more dangerous. So if to win the game, we just want to secure a big part of the map where we can walk freely, right? Eventually, my zone of control becomes so big that the zone of control include the other guy's main building. Like if my zone of control reach here, let's say at the end of the game, right, the only control my enemy have is their fountain, right? And our team has control of all the bottom part of the map. That means we win, right? Because their building is in our control. That's what allows us to hit it, and that's what allows us to win, right? And so to win the game of League, you want to have a lot of map control, right? And how do you get map control? So I kind of broke it down into 3 components. One way to get map control is to do vision, right? So this part is very scary. I don't know who's there gonna, take my lunch money, but if I have a ward here, I know that this region is safe, right? I can just walk here without getting mugged. So I have map control. So a very good way to get map control is vision. And as we covered before, right, everybody in League can place ward, everyone in League can de-ward. So take your part and don't like break out of the habit that, oh, I'm not playing support, I don't have to play. I have to play. Everyone play ward game, right, in League. Okay. And another way to create map control is to push wave, right? If I push the wave, see how the minions are here? I have vision here, right? So they're just kind of like moving ward, if you will, right? These are wards that just like move forward. So if I push, just like push a lot, right? See how these waves are crashing? Like I have control of all these regions because I can see, right? If an enemy move here, I know, well, okay, I'm not gonna go there, right? So these minions, just by pushing, right, you win the game. Like a lot of beginners have the mistake mentality that you win the game by killing other champions. That's not true. You win the game by pushing. If my team has better push than you, I don't even need to fight you. I just keep pushing, and I'm just gonna win, right? Let's take this to the extreme. Imagine I create a new League of Legends champion, right? What does this champion do? He can kill any creep, any minion on the map without vision. would that be OP? That would be absolutely OP, right? Because then I can just kill all of them without seeing them. The enemy will never ever end up at my base, and they'll basically never win, right? So pushing win games, right? So like the whole concept of rat Dota, split pushing, group up and push, like push the lane and do objective, all of that is the same in League. So continue to do that, right? So like when you go gank, right, for example, I don't want to have the creeps hitting my tower, right? I want to kind of push it out first to the enemy tower, and then I go gank, right? If I want to group up with my team and I'm on the side lane, I should kind of push it in, and then I group with my team, right? And if I'm a split pusher, I just keep pushing the side lane, and just by pushing, I create so much pressure, and the other team have to kind of deal with me, right? If you're wondering why Nature Prophet is such a good hero in Dota, it's because he just push, right? He just presses alt and just kill all the minions, right? And then like it automatically push the lane, and you get map control by pushing. And so the last part about how to get map control is through kills, right? Imagine the entire enemy team is dead. Of course, it's not very safe to walk into any of the neighborhood, right? Because they're all dead. So that's probably the most difficult part, is how do you kill? So to kill, you want to set up some advantages before you can kill, right? If I'm 1 HP and the other guy has like 1 billion HP, like, and I have no damage, there's no way I can fight him, right? So you want some notion of getting ahead. But the whole point of getting ahead and getting kill, like to reiterate, is we want to secure map control, right? That's like always the basic of these kind of games. And so and kill is like getting ahead is super difficult, and probably take a long time to learn. I'm just silver, right? I don't know. So I just outline some of the things that I find interesting, and then break it down to different aspects to give you something to think about. First, we can talk about laning. Laning basically, last hit, right? Like don't ever miss last hit in League, because as I said, if I hit up the tab, I see how much last hit you have, and I'll be like, wow, our mid lane is garbage. He has like 1/3 of the last hit as the other guy. So like, make sure, right? Like if you don't have an excuse to miss it, like don't freaking miss any last hit, right? That's important. And one thing that's very important, which we don't get to see, is actual wave management. I guess this game's gonna end, so maybe this is important to start over and try to talk a little bit of wave management, because it's actually super key in League. So in Dota, one of the things that is different, right, is you could deny, as we covered, right? We could deny. But in League, you can't really deny. So what's gonna happen? Let's just pick a little bit.
I thought you'd never pick me.
So imagine you have the creep in a good location, very close to your tower, where you feel very safe. In Dota, you could make the creep wave where they crash stay in that location forever, right? Like each time your creep is below half health, you could just start denying them. That will stop your wave from pushing. And each time you want to push a bit more, you could just start auto-attacking the other guy's creep, right? So if I have a wave here, I have a lot of knobs I can tweak to keep the wave here for a long time, right? How do I push the lane forward? Oh, it's very easy, right? I just like spam some ability on the enemy minion, and they're gonna die, and I'm gonna push, right? So the lane is here. How do I stop it from going into my side? Well, that's also very easy, right? Sorry, how do I stop my minion from pushing forward? Well, I can start denying, right? That will allow it to move closer to me. Or I can like double stack a jungle camp and pull the jungle camp to the creep. The jungle camp will kill it. That will allow the creep frontier to move toward me, right? So as we covered, in Dota, there are things that you can do to make where the wave crash, to move it closer to the enemy, or to move it closer to
Minions
myself.
have spawned.
In League, you cannot pull camps. In League, you cannot deny. So if you don't manage your wave carefully, it's just gonna slip away. It's gonna push. And what happens when it push? Well, I feel very good farming here, and I don't manage my wave right. All of a sudden, right, instead of farming over here, I'm farming in the middle. Or worse, I have to be here to last hit. What does this mean? I'm gonna get ganked, right? And so in League, it's actually pretty important to do wave management, and I won't go into how to do that. Like, I'm not the best person, like I'm not good, but you could watch some YouTube video and just literally go on YouTube and like search for wave management in League. It's like a huge topic. Like you have to set up like fast pushes and slow pushes and freeze. So this is kind of the very interesting aspect where I'm pretty sure when they first made League, they want to make the game easier by removing the design mechanics, but there's a whole like philosophical thing come up with like wave management, and it actually become way more complicated in Dota. I would say wave management in Dota is much easier than League, because in Dota, there's stuff that you can do. In League, like you need to plan ahead, right? See how my wave is just pushing now, and I just lost control, right? In Dota, you lose control when you couldn't really deny it back, but like you could still have some control. Like in League, there's like a very fine tipping point. Like if you tip it over, your wave's just gonna push, and there's no way you can salvage it, basically. And also, as we covered, right, you have a recall button, no courier, right? So another thing that I'm pretty sure when they first made the game of League, they're like, do you courier micro 2 units? Oh, so hard, let's not do that. Let's just have a button that just like, take your champion way back in base so that they can buy item, they can walk out, right? Simpler game, much simpler. It's gonna be great. It's actually harder, right? So like we said, like if I'm winning a lane, in Dota, I can just like say I'm a Viper, I'm crushing it. I just keep using the courier to get my stuff, right? And then continue to crush the lane harder and harder and harder. I never have to go back team base, right? But in League, I have to take a break, right? And I need to be now very strategic. Like, do I have to go back? Should I go back? If I go back, like the other guy have free reign over my lane for like the time that I'm gone. So you need to be smart about it. And also something that you could do is, let's say I'm losing, right? Let's say I'm in the lane and I'm absolutely getting crushed. These other guys here, like he's owning, he has high level, blah blah blah. What I can do is I just go back, I take a B, and then I buy my item, I come back and I kill him, right? And in Dota, what's gonna happen? In Dota, basically he's ahead, and as soon as he's ahead, he's gonna buy stuff, right? And he's gonna use a courier to deliver. So he's always gonna be stronger than me in lane. But in League, I can kind of strategically time my gold to go back home, buy a key item that will allow me to kill him. Because he wasn't being strategic on taking it back. So he just kind of stayed around for a long time, blah, 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 I don't have to go back. And he has like, 2,000 gold that he didn't spend. And all of a sudden, I come back with some item and I kill him, right? And so taking back, like know when to recall back to base is like super important. So again, this is not a guide on how to do it, right? I'm not a good player, but just to be aware that you need to be strategic when you go back to base. You want to look at your gold and know that, oh, I have this much gold, I can buy a combination of these two items, I should probably take a B, and weigh against like the pressure that you will lose by not being on the map because you have to go back in base. Okay. Another thing, right? So as a recap, right, all we're talking about is how to play the game now, right? So in the first part, we talk about how the games are different, right? So here I'm just gonna tell you, here's how to actually play the game because they're different in this way, right? Another stuff that we covered that was also different is you have more mana, right? Look, I can cast my spell.
Where are we going?
I can just cast my spell. Look, I will cast my stun, and I just cast my stun, and oh, look, I can cast more spell, and then in 5 seconds my stun is back up and can cast more stun, right? Look, I can cast 2 stun, more spell, and look at my mana regen at 1.7, right?
Okay.
My mana actually go up like ridiculously fast. So by the time I see how absurd this is? Like, do you realize how OP this would be in Dota if you have this much mana regen? Like, your lane would be absolutely, like,
Come play with me.
redunculously strong. And in League, when you kill these things, they refund your mana. Look at that. I just killed a neutral camp, and then I'm up half mana. Oh look, more way to spam my spell. Look at that. I don't have to hit shit. I can just like turn it on and it doesn't hurt me. And oh, what is this? This is a fruit. Break it down, and I eat these things. Look, it gives me mana and health. Look, I just wasted all my mana, and I'm still half mana, right? So this is kind of how League is. Like mana, you need to use it, and you need to use it in a smart way. So in laning, you should use your mana to, right? You could either hit creep with it, but you shouldn't, or like in most cases, you don't have to, because why? Because they can't deny it, right? So if you're in range to hit it and it's safe, right? Like you're not gonna get hit in the face if you go for a last hit. You just normal last hit, and you should use your spell to threaten the other champion, right? So like if he walk close, right, I can like, you know, stun him in, throw my combo and try to hurt him, right? So that's kind of a concept called trading, which is not really a thing. Like it is a thing in Dota, but like not as much of a thing. In League, it's a huge thing. It's like there are more options to you because you're not bound by a low mana pool in League. So in League, in a lane, you should actively use your mana to trade HP, right? So if I'm in lane and I use my mana to lower the other guy's HP, what does he have to do? He actually have to go back home, right? He has to heal, because if he doesn't heal, I can kill him, and if I kill him, he miss all the money here. And if we go back home, he maybe still lose a lot of money here, right? So in League, a lot of time winning a lane is mostly try to get the other guy to be kind of a low HP. You'll be winning the lane already. In Dota, there are more ways to win the lane, right? In Dota, say I'm a Viper, I don't really need to get the other guy to be low health. I can just like straight up deny every creep, and I'll be winning the lane too, right? The situation gets done. But in League, since you cannot deny, the way to win the lane is to use your spell strategically, and once you use your spell strategically, you can hurt the other guy through a good trading, right? I do my spell combo, he misses, his health is lower, and just keep doing it over and over until his health is low enough that he has to go back to base, right? And so that's a concept of trading, which is very important. And that's mostly about laning. So in laning, to recap, don't miss any last hit. YouTube, like Google how to do wave management. Be very strategic when you take the recall button to go home and buy stuff. And then look at your matchup and know how to trade, right? So if I'm playing mid with a certain champion and he's the other champion, because in League, spell is more free, they actually just fight a lot with spell all the time, right? In Dota, a lot of time in the lane, you're kind of passive. I just want to farm, right? If I'm a Shadow Fiend, I just raise the creep. That's okay, right? If I can clip him with my raise, awesome. But like, doesn't need to be awesome. If I just hit it, like that's okay, right? And not a lot of things actually happen, right? So in League, because for League has been out for like what 12, 13 years, right? For 13 years in League, they are practicing how to one-on-one in lane. So the first time, if you're coming from Dota and you play League, in the laning phase, it'll suck balls because you don't know how to trade yet. Like it's never ingrained to you that, oh, I should just throw my stun because I feel like it, or because like I can get his HP low, right? In Dota, you throw a stun if you're gonna kill, right? You don't really throw a stun to like, not often to throw a stun just to lower the HP, right? Like it's usually like you save your stun and wait for your ganking to come, or like wait for a combo with your teammate in lane, and you kill them, right? So like think of it as like Earthshaker with like a Fisher, and you land like a triple raise, right? And they die. So like the intention of the Earthshaker isn't, oh, I'm just gonna stun him because I'll just stun him and alter him once, so that his HP is a bit lower. But in League, you probably actually do that. Like you just stun them and alter him a bit to just grind out like maybe like 20%, 30% of the other guy's health. That's totally like the right thing to do in League, which is like kind of counterintuitive if you come from playing Dota, right? Be like, oh fuck, our Earthshaker can only probably do one Fissure before out of mana, right? Like in League. Like just by talking, right? Like we've been casting our spell on fucking full mana again. Right? This is fucking absurd. Like you have so much mana. I just use it. Right? So like HP is like kind of more of a premium thing in League, and mana is just kind of free. So you should just use that fact to use your spells to trade in there. Okay. That mostly covers laning, and I want to talk about ganking. But before that, I want to talk about how late game work, right? Because usually how you win a game of Dota or in League is kind of very similar. It's like it's kind of late game. The respawn timer is kind of long. If you die, it takes like a minute to come up. And then there's like a huge ass team fight, and then one team gets wiped, and the other team just like run over their team and just end it, right? So we want to talk about how late game is similar but also different between League and Dota. In Dota, you could 1v5. If you are a faceless void, you can go in, kind of chronosphere the entire team, and you maybe just need like a Darkseer to like suck them together and just like whack them a few times with Battle Fury. They just all died, right? And what did you lose? You lost some mana, you didn't lose any health, right? Because with one good initiation, you could kill them without suffering any consequences, right? And this is kind of a result of what we talked about in the first half, is that Dota is a game of crowd control. So in late game, if you do the engagement right, you could easily set up 1v5 situations where if you just hold the other guy in place for the whole duration, right? Let's say I have an Enigma, I just do my black hole the whole time, and my Sven just like hitting them, right? My Sven's not gonna die because like the other guys can't freaking move, so the Sven will just win, and then we just win the game. In League, that doesn't really work. In League, it's almost the case that every fight would have some casualty. Because why? Because League doesn't really have enough hard disable, and League has a lot of mobility and displacement. So in League, it's very hard to just hold people in place for your carry to beat on them. And so what's gonna happen is, as your carry is beating on the other guy, he's gonna take damage. So like, if you have a glass cannon carry in Dota, like it'll probably work okay because nobody can actually touch him, because if your team has good crowd control. In League, late game, you're always trading health. So like in Dota, it's a lot of like all or nothing, right? If I Enigma hit a very good blink ultimate black hole, I get everything, and the other team gets nothing. In League, it's more gradient. So it's kind of like when I go into a team fight in League, I'm expected to take some damage. I'm expected to have to like trade some of my health. Our team is expected to lose a few in an even team fight. Like by even I mean like equally farmed. If we have equally farmed, there's no like one big turnaround play that just is like, oh, black hole, or like it doesn't work in, it doesn't happen in League. So you're always trading. So what really happened is there's no 1v5 hard carries as a consequence, right? You can't really get a, yeah, that just doesn't quite work. Like in Dota, you could kind of go for like, oh, a late game Spectre, or like a late game, who knows, right? Magnus combo melee or whatever. Like, so essentially, there are carries in League, but they're not really hard carry that's just gonna like kill your whole team. Also, I guess I forgot to mention there's no Black King bar in League, right? If in Dota, if your team doesn't have a thing to go through BKB, the other guy come up with like BKB satanic shrapnel shot gyrocopter, just pew 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 like 4 hits, and your whole team is dead, right? Like he just hard carry, he 1v5 your whole team. That kind of stuff doesn't really happen in League. If they come in like that, like you could just like hit him and he would die. I was watching a video of some guy in League try to get 100% life steal, like actually 102% or 101%, like Olaf, And he's like, wow, I get over 100% lifesteal. How absurd is that? And the whole time I was thinking, wow, like we can just buy Satanic and hit the active and instantly get like 130% lifesteal for free, right? And so like in League, hard carry are not that hard. And this segue very nicely into the next point, which is ganking and efficiency. Okay. I'm farming jungle. In Dota, how does gank work? Well, imagine I have an enemy Spectre, right? Let's say the Spectre is, the Spectre is just farming over here. Or he's farming, I guess in Dota he would be farming over here, right on the top side. So what I would do, let's say I'm a Nyx Assassin or something, right? Say I'm a Nyx Assassin, I want to gank the Spectre, right? What I could do is, I'm just gonna camp here for like 30 seconds or to a minute. If that lands me a kill on the enemy Spectre, I would say that's entirely worth it, right? So a gank in Dota, especially if you gank the enemy carry, the expectation is, the point of the gank is to make the other guy weak. It's not to get a bounty to make you strong, right? Why? Because in Dota, there are these things called like super late and super hyper hard carry. So if you could set them back a little bit, you're gonna prevent them from 1v5 your team. So the point of the gank is to shut down the other guy. In League, as we discussed before, there is no hard carry due to the fact that we stated earlier, there's not enough crowd control. So like if you're carry late game, they can still die. So your whole team need to be strong in order to win late game engagements, not just your carry. So what do you do when you gank? In gank in League, it's more 50-50. It's not about shutting the other guy down entirely, and it's not about making yourself rich entirely. It's a mixture of set the other guy back a little bit and also make yourself rich a little bit. So if you're a mid and you want to decide to gank, don't just sit here for like a minute, be like, oh, I'm ganking the other guy's carry, what a great idea. It's gonna set them so far behind. That doesn't work. For another reason, in League, when you die, you don't lose gold. In Dota, when you die, you lose unreliable gold, right? So if the enemy Spectre is sitting on some gold, trying to buy a, sacred relic, you kill them, they lose gold. In League, they don't lose gold. So ganking doesn't really set the other guy back that much. So set them back a little bit, don't get me wrong, but
where are we going?
A lot of making gank important is it make you more ahead. That's what to consider. So that comes into the point of efficiency. You don't want to waste a long time getting a gank if you're missing from in the middle. So I'm in the middle, right? I'm in the middle. Before I gank, I always push my creep all the way in, right? Push my minion in like this. And then after all the minions are dead, right? Let's say the tower is hitting them. Okay. Then I rotate. So I started going bottom. Let's see if a gank can happen here, right? And then I go to here. And then realize, oh, this gank is like not quite working out. Maybe I shouldn't do it. I just walk back. And when I walk back, see what happened. This minion started to push a little bit back out. And I'm still in good position to catch all the farm, right? So that way, I have to budget when to farm these things versus when to gank. So I need to be conscious to make the choice of like, oh, how does this game benefit me versus how much benefit do I get just by farming it, right? So you just don't sit here for like 1 minute trying to get a pick. That doesn't work. It's a bit more about getting yourself more ahead rather than setting back the other guy. So that's kind of how gank works. So I would say in League it's 50-50 split. In Dota it's like 90-10 split more, right? Like it's more about shutting the other guy down. And so with that in mind, in Dota, if you see the other guy ahead, you should just try to gank them, right? because that sets them back and that ruins their tempo. But in League, it's kind of a thing, like kind of a rule of thumb for jungler is that you should only help the lane that's winning instead of helping the lane that's losing. And that's kind of just taken as true in League, but have you ever wondered why that is, right? And the reason is because you're ganking to get yourself ahead. So if you're ganking a lane that's already ahead, it's more likely that you're going to get more ahead because you secure a kill, you get more farm, you get a tower, you get more ahead. If you gank a lane that's behind,
let's find some friends.
Chances are you're just gonna die. And even if you kill the other guy, like he's ahead, but like he's not gonna get behind because he doesn't lose gold. So it's kind of like a low reward strategy. So in Dota, it's definitely a thing to go to the lane that's losing. Or there's really not really a losing lane. I mean, the lane are kind of very different in versus Dota, but in Dota, it's a thing to shut down a guy that's super rich, and it's okay to sacrifice a lot for that kind of a shutdown gold. In League, that's not really a thing. The League is more like there's a poor kid that's very behind. The best way to play is you keep bullying the kid, and then he's just gonna keep coughing up like some lunch money for you to take, and then you're just gonna bully him until like he quit the game basically. So so that's kind of how League work. You go to the winning lane, you get more ahead. So in Dota, you think about how to make the other guy fall behind. In League, you think about how to get yourself more ahead. So that's kind of the change of mindset you should take in playing League with respect to ganking. All right. The next thing we can talk about is rhythm and objective. So as we talked, right, this camp here, after I kill it, it doesn't spawn on a sharp timing, right? It spawn in 2 minutes after I kill it. And so for this reason, when I clear it, and keeping in mind we want to do efficiency, right? We want to get ahead as a jungler. I will clear this camp, I will clear this camp, clear this one, and clear this one, and go for a gank, go back to base, and then this camp will be back up. And then I can do this like all over again. So in League, it's actually very in League has a stronger sense of rhythm. Like I'm just gonna do this same route over and over and over. And this rhythm is dictated because this camp take 2 minutes to spawn back up. So I'm just gonna keep doing this, do this full clear, clearing it back, come back down, clearing it back. So if I do this particular clear path, right, at the end, my camp is not spawned yet. I still have 30 seconds before this spawns. So like even if I go back base and run here, this will still be empty what I do at the end of the clear.
Your team has destroyed a turret.
So if I clear the camp from bottom to top, I clear. At the end, there will be a period of time where I have nothing to do. So this is where I can gank top or gank mid. And then immediately after that, I will use my recall to go back in base, and I will clear this again. So you can see how it has a rhythm to it. In the middle, I'm going to push, say I'm playing mid, right? I'll push until I don't lose any farm, and I go to the side to look for a gank, and then I come back middle. So you see, this is a rhythm, right? Like go back, go out, go back. In jungle, I do my clear, gank, recall, clear, gank, recall. So there's a lot of like rhythm, which make it actually kind of strategic, because if you know that you have to play this rhythm, the enemy also have to play this rhythm, right? So if you know that the enemy started on this camp, you will know that if he does a full clear, he's gonna end up top, right? And then he's gonna gank top. So you can make these kind of very strategic decisions. You could tell your top laner, be like, oh, I found the enemy started jungling here somehow, right, through a ward or something. You should worry about a gank in 30 seconds. And lo and behold, in 30 seconds, this guy finished clearing the campaign, he's looking for a gank. So in League, there's a lot more, you could YouTube like how to do jungle tracking, and it's because League is set up to have a very strong rhythm. And so based on this rhythm, your enemy become more predictable, and because they're more predictable, you could actually be smart about it, right? In Dota, it's like very chaotic sometimes, but in League, it's like very much structured, but that will give you the opportunity also to be strategic. Okay, so look at this dragon, right? So as we said before, right, this dragon is not Roshan, it's actually quite weak, so level 9 without any item, just have a destroy, and I'm just be able to right, so if I use a smite, it will even heal me. So I think I just go. And what does it take? It doesn't take that long, but like, it took a long time, kind of, comparatively to hitting something like this. So these are kind of how objective work in League. They're kind of, if you're in the right place at the right time, you could just take it real fast. So that means you should really be contesting this objective when it's up, right? Because you, at least you shouldn't give it for free, right? Like there's some debates on like how important dragons are. Like I personally don't like dragon that much early game. I think rift is more important, like this objective here. But like, what does a dragon do? What does a rift do? Just kind of look them up on your own. But essentially, the key difference is that this is not a Roshan. This is like much weaker than a Roshan. It doesn't give as much benefit as a Roshan, but like it's kind of free money. So if you shouldn't give away free money to the enemy team. So when the dragon spawn, you should at least know if they're taking it, right? Like if they just take it for free, that's super bad because they just got a whole bunch of gold for nothing. So you don't necessarily have to like feed your whole team try to get it. Like it's not that important at like the first few dragon anyway. But you should know that, like, put a word down, right? They are taking dragon. They're gonna be here for the next minute or so. I'm gonna push lane. I'm gonna set up gank, right? I should get something in return. It's not gonna be like, oh well, I guess nobody's gonna be in the Roche pit for the first 15 minutes anyway. I don't really need to check it. In here, like the objective actually dies. So essentially, you see how this is a particular way for League of Legends to like artificially create tension, right? So in Dota, the only true neutral objective is a Roche, right? Or like maybe like the Ancient Camp if you're stacking it for your Medusa or something, right? Like those are like points worth dying for in a sense. But in League, like there are these dragon that kind of just spawns, and it's on a timer. So if I hit the tab, right, you could see the next dragon's gonna spawn in 2 minutes and 40 seconds. So I better plan my entire jungle route so that I will at least be somewhat in this general area in 2 minutes or so that I don't give it free to my opponents. So again, efficiency, rhythm, be on time, right? Don't be late for your dragon, and you should look up toward this one so you could take trades on the other side of the map. So think these neutral objectives are very important in League because those are kind of, if I take it, you don't have it. If you take it, I don't have it, right? It's not like the lane creep, like eventually everyone will get somewhat equal resources from this lane creep, right? This jungle is risky, right? If I go in here, I have a high chance to get mugged because I don't have map control here. These are truly somewhat neutral objective that you could take, and if you take it, your enemy don't have it, and they come at a timer. So be sure to at least be aware that these things are here, right? Cool. So we covered laning, we covered ganking, late game, objective. I want to talk a little bit more about jungle because I've been playing a lot of jungle. I would say the fastest way to learn how Leaf works is to actually play the jungle role because you could read up, how each of the champions do, what their abilities are, and just like on the map. But one of the best way to learn how they do is you actually go into the lane and try to gank and fight them, right? See how they react. And in Dota, there's not really a dedicated jungle role, right? Like you could play on some hero, but like there's not that every game have to have a jungler in Dota, right? But in League, due to the weird like item that they have, a jungle item that just only work for jungle, right? So in a Mumu I buy
Your team
this
has
item, right, or
destroyed a
something like that,
Okay.
which only work in the jungle. So it's kind of like, well, we need to use the jungle resources efficiently, so every game should have a, dedicated jungler. And so, and this jungler, and since the rest of the lane are very tied up into the rhythm, right? Like I just described, the mid lane kind of gank a little bit, and then I have to come back, right? And the top lane kind of needs to sit here, and the bot lane also kind of needs to sit here for some other reasons. So you kind of, as a jungler, you're the only mobile role in the map. So it's kind of like the 4 position kind of in Dota, where you are expected. It's like a mixture between 3 and 4 in Dota, I would imagine, because you're like the one that doesn't really have to suck so much resources, and you're the one that is going to make plays, right? You think of it as like a Spirit Breaker or like level 6 Clockwork, or who else is like a very strong ganking? Probably just those two, like for now. Like maybe Earthshaker with like a long Fisher that you want to walk around, or like a Rubik with like a lift, or a Sand King. Those are kind of the expected role for a jungler to take. Like they are the ganking. They're usually the ganking champions in League of Legends. So like if you play jungle, you get to actually interact with everybody, right? If you gank top, you kind of see how top works. You gank middle. So I would really advocate to play jungle, because you get to play all the jungle in here, and then you learn how the objective work, right? You learn how dragon work. You will learn how to track the other enemy jungle. You will know which lane are winning, which lanes are losing. So I think jungling is probably the most informative role you could start playing if you want to understand how the game works in League. Cool. And then lastly, I want to talk just very briefly about fighting. How does fight work? Where do fight happen, right? Oh, I guess one sideway, like a small point. How does support work?
Your team has destroyed an
support
inhibitor.
actually play very aggressive in League of Legends. So if you are, imagine you're playing Dota and you're in the lane, and then you are a support, let's say you're a Lion. Do you stand behind your Sven, or you stand like way up in front of your Sven? I would say you stand behind the Sven, right? Because if you are standing in front of the Sven, like you most likely could die if it's not careful. And in League, the lanes are different, right? In Dota, there's like a safe lane and a hard lane, right? And they're kind of, my safe lane is your hard lane, and your safe lane is my hard lane. In League, it's completely symmetric, so it's like a one-on-one mid. And in League, the bottom is basically 1 carry, 1 support versus 1 carry and 1 support. And the reason for that is, again, how the map is structured is because there's a dragon objective here. That's why there's 1 carry and 1 support here, because if I'm doing a 1-on-2, let's say I only put 1 guy here and the other guy have 2 guys here, one of these guys, they will create pressure, right? Because there's 2 people. They will be able to win this lane and then rotate with the jungle and easily have access to this neutral objective. So that's why in League they put a carry support bottom and another carry support bottom, just to have a number of advantage to make sure the other team doesn't just take the dragon for free. So this is kind of the reason why the lane is set up in this way, where there's 2 people here. And if you're a support, you can actually play fairly up, right? Like if the creep is crashing here as a support, I could kind of just play up here and try to poke and set something up, and I can play pretty aggro. And the reason for that is, in Dota, you would die, right? In Dota, you die because you get disabled, the other guy just like kill you. But in League, it's a skill shot. You could dodge it, you know. You don't really die. And in League, the supports, usually if you're a tanky support, you could take some like rune that actually make you very hard to kill. So if you're playing a support and you just hide behind the carry the whole time, because you're used to hide behind the carry in Dota, what's gonna happen is your carry just gonna miss out a whole bunch of farm
Your
and get
team
kind
has
of
destroyed a turret.
So you just play side by side with your carry and be more aggressive as a support is the right way to think about how to play support in League.
Your team has destroyed a turret.
So last thing before we wrap up the video, how to fight. Really, League and Dota are kind of similar. There's different kind of fights. There's duel, which is one-on-one. You usually get one-on-one duel or jungle. And there's skirmishes, where it's like 2-on-2, 2-on-3 kind of a thing. And there's like full team fights. And I would say is quite similar in Dota. Like a lot of the same concept would translate. Like if you know how to play tank in Dota, you will know how to play tank in League in fights. If you know how to play like casters, right? Like backline caster like Lina or Lion, like there are similar champions in League that also do. So I don't want to talk about fighting too much because I would say they are somewhat similar, with the exception that just remember League is a game of dashes and Dota is a game of crowd control. So as long as you kind of ingrain that into your head, like you should be adjusting your fight accordingly. So it's not gonna be so much about having a good initiation and the whole fight is over. It's gonna be more drawn out a little bit. There's gonna be a little bit more back and forth. It's not gonna be like one disable, bam, bam, like their whole team is gone. Like it probably won't happen too often in League. Cool. That's about wrap it up. I'm pretty sure I said a lot of extra stuff, and I'll probably take this footage and compress it shorter, and I hope you enjoying playing League of Legends. Cool.